Yeah, it has. Hey, it's on. Cecil McClendon. I'm the city attorney. All right, so ARPA. Yes. Is there a a vice chairman or anything like that?
There's someone more experienced.
Okay, y'all can decide who would conduct the meeting, Chris?
Yeah, I guess I need to start it since,
Yep.
so. Um. Motion to call meeting to order.
Second, present.
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 So you have a consent agenda for the approval of the July 17th meeting minutes?
Motion to approve, July 17th meeting minutes.
Second,
Yeah, and motion to approve meeting agenda.
second.
All right, I guess with that, we can start with your presentation. Seema.
Sure, no problem. And again, yeah, hey, come on up. Hey. Sarah, how are you? Good, I'm Cecil McGlendon. I think we've met. I said, yep, absolutely, absolutely. So Sarah Marks has just come to the meeting. So, we've gotten to the point and Majira has asked me to come and just do a training. Basically sort of go through a training. This one gives everybody trouble. Go through a training, and talk about some just basic issues that boards, city boards, it's good to know. And I've done this a bunch of times with a bunch of different boards, but I've not ever done it with the Art Commission. So that was one reason when you look in your package, I started thinking about it. And I said, the Planning Commission has a lot of issues they deal with, and it's very illustrative of a lot of the concepts I was going to talk about. So I included that in there, and I want to discuss that and then discuss it, sort of contrast it with what y'all do so we can get an understanding of a lot of the decision-making and processes that are here. So the package is just, you'll have that. You'll also find in there the art ordinance, and that is the same as the Planning Commission, where the ordinances establish a planning commission. You'll also find in the package the art ordinance, which established the art commission and basically talks about all the duties for the art commission. First thing I always talk about is the types of decisions you're making when your agenda comes forward to you. And there are two broad categories of decisions that all boards will make, including the mayor and council, the planning commission, any board. There are two types, general types of issues that will be under consideration. And it's good to know that because it sort of tells you how you have to approach the issue. For the first one and the most basic one is a legislative determination. And a legislative determination is basically what the mayor and council do when they pass ordinances, when they do zoning cases, when they establish policies and procedures. That is a very broad category and it's based on opinion. And that is something that the Art Commission will do as well. And we're going to go look at the criteria and your duties and look to see which ones are going to be more legislative, where you're giving your opinion on things, versus a quasi-judicial determination. Quasi-judicial determinations tend to be a little more significant in you need more fundamental when you make that decision. And the Planning Commission, that's when somebody does a variance or a use permit. Or is anybody familiar with the zonings or anything like that? Or is that sort of a new process?
I
Okay.
think we've like lightly brushed over it, but we've
Yeah.
never really gotten into the technicalities of it.
So let me give an example of the Art Commission where you might have a legislative determination. And I think you might have one tonight where somebody's coming in and saying, I would like to paint the side or paint the crosswalk on the road. And then, hey, how are you? Hey, No problem. Adam has come and, yep, I'm Cecil McClendon. I'm the city attorney. We got started, but now we have everybody here. So we're just going, Majir had asked me to come in and do some broad conversations about boards and what they do. When you're looking at a legislative determination, there, we've said, I've included planning commission because I think it has a lot of criteria if you read it and you can get a lot out of the reading through their rules, because ours are a little different. Ours, we have a more limited scope of what we do, but I wanted you to have some examples of those type of decisions. A legislative determination is one where someone's asking for your opinion. For instance, when the mayor and council ask you to put together sort of the art report and the recommendations for what Doraville can do yearly to implement art, that's really a very, your opinions, looking at the community, understanding your expertise, gathering all the information that's out there and saying, you know what, mayor and council, we could use fill in the blank, whatever kind of thing would enhance art in the community. Perfect legislative decision making, right? It's just your opinion. The second type, though, is a quasi judicial determination. What that is when you'll see the ordinances lay out criteria, specific criteria. And it says, if you're going to make this decision, you got to consider these criteria and decide if they're met, because that's the only way you can approve this or move forward with this. In the planning commission, that's a variance. And a variance is where basically the zoning rules might say, you need 7 feet for this setback line. But if somebody can come in and show you my lot is oddly shaped, or there are these specific circumstances, you have the right to let it be 5 feet. But when you do that, it can't be, it's our opinion, this should happen. It has to be, we looked at A, B, C, and D, and E, and we decided that they met that criteria. So when we look to your determinations, a big one is when people bring you just a general suggestion for something in the community to recommend to the mayor and council, then that's very legislative. Do you like it? Is it aesthetically pleasing? What do you think? On the other hand, when we look at the ordinance and the art commission ordinance, and it's in here, we have, let me actually go to it and talk about it. There we go, public cards. And on section 29.3, which is on page 63 in the package, it talks about the role of the City of Doraville Art Commission. Develop of the plan that y'all have put together that make recommendations to the mayor and council of what should be done. Appoint committees, review project plans, artworks commissioned with city funds. So if the mayor and council ask you to weigh in on something they're considering to do. But the big one down here at the bottom is when we're talking about the public art and the public art ordinance. So when somebody wants to do a mural or a public installation, that one, the reason I wanted to bring it up to you is that is the one decision y'all make that is quasi judicial. So if you look and we go to the next page, which is page 65, when it talks about the public art submissions, it says the Art Commission shall consider the proposed installation on the basis of whether, and then it has 6 criteria. And one of those is whether it meets the themes, because you know the mayor and council have established their themes, right? So that's important. What you're going to do is look and say, you know, does this reflect those themes that the mayor and council are trying to promote within the city? Is the location appropriate? And I always, when we were putting it together, I said, you know, is it a location the public's going to see? Because it's public art. So if somebody came in and said, you know, we want to put something in that the public won't see, probably doesn't meet the criteria. But if it is in a public location, is it an appropriate location? I could dream up scenarios where you might say, you know what? That's not where we want that type of installation to go. If it, for some reason it posed to traffic, it distracted people, something like that. If there was just something you came up with and said, that's not a good location for it. If the materials were utilized, another one was the application complete. Those are all things that you can consider that evidence. You can look at the package, and the biggest one in there is, did it meet the themes? Okay. When those are out there, you're making a quasi judicial determination. And when you are saying that something is appropriate to move forward, it's good to put it in the record why you said that met that criteria. When you're just making legislative determinations, you're freewheeling, you can do anything you want. But on that particular one, you need to go ahead and say, yeah, I'm looking at this and I find that it does meet that criteria. It does. It is a good location for this because it's going to be in an area that, we want to promote this type of art in the city and those things. So that actually to me is sort of the biggest issue that I see, because that's the one thing that when y'all do that, you're making that determination that somebody could get mad about. And it could end up coming to me. It never has. When I wrote it, I was worried about it. It never has. So I probably was too worried. But I wanted to point out the difference between that. Legislatives, quasi judicial. When you're quasi judicial, you put on your judge hat, you read your criteria, you see the evidence in front of you, and you need to say, yeah, you meet the criteria. Big one on that one's going to be, it meets the themes. Okay. And everything else is appropriate.
Just to reiterate, the themes are the diversity, vitality, and community, right?
Exactly.
Okay, that's it.
So, then here's the thing. If y'all make a determination that you looked at that and that met the criteria, there's a lot of subjectiveness in that. But if y'all stated in the record that you looked at this and you made that determination, nobody can ever touch you. It would be almost impossible for anybody to come in and overturn you. And what's always worried me a little bit, when we pass this ordinance, you're letting people put things up on the side of a building. You got the First Amendment. Somebody comes in and says, I want to put something nutty up on side of the building, right? And we need to have a methodology that says, no, you can't just put anything there, right? We're looking at these themes and we're making sure they meet the theme. So if I come in with, Cecil McClendon, the law office of Cecil McClendon does personal injury cases, that's not going to meet those things.
Especially not next to an elementary school.
Exactly, right. And that's almost inappropriate anywhere, right? But that's a big deal for what y'all do. And to me, that was one of the big things with writing that ordinance, is to make sure we would get the desired result of the cool stuff that we want to see and we see going up around here that is looking neat, but we also avoid the potential that somebody could come in one day and present something and we wouldn't have a way to say, no, that's not right. That doesn't fit. And I worried when I wrote this thing, I was sweating bullets, and then 5 years later, I never heard a word out of it. So but I thought, to me, that's the one thing I want y'all to know really strongly, that's the big deal for me on all this. Does that make sense? Any questions on that, or why I would talk about that? Because that's like super fundamental, big number one with a star next to it. Other than that, y'all are a board that was appointed by the mayor and council. So that's an interesting thing, to be honest with you. When the mayor and council has created your board and said, we hereby create the art commission by our authority, you're bound by the same rules as the mayor and council. So you have to follow all their rules, open meetings, open records. You're subject to those rules. Whereas if Majira was charged with getting some citizens and stakeholders and finding something out on a staff or an administrative level, that's not subject to the Open Meetings Act or the Open Records Act. So that is a huge impact for what we're doing. Y'all know what the Open Meetings Act is? Open meetings? Yep. Yeah, got to have a quorum. You have to have it posted in advance. That's usually pretty basic. And then when you come in, you do it. The big one on that, though, is, let's say you went to eat afterwards. If you have a quorum, that can become a meeting. And it's absolutely a meeting if you go as more than 3 of you went to eat and started talking about issues of the committee. You are having a meeting without a notice, without an agenda, without anything. That's a huge deal. So you got to be real careful of that and just make sure that it doesn't mean you can't, all 5 of you get together. There are exceptions for social events. There are exceptions for if you ever went for an inspection, if y'all decided we want to go look around town and look for places that we would like to target for art, y'all could all get in a car and drive around and do that. Those are exceptions. But the big thing to remember on that is you are subject to open meetings. So if you have a quorum, keep it light. You can't discuss business because that's a big problem. Open records. So do y'all have city email addresses? You know that anything that's in that email address, anybody's going to read it. Anybody who requests it can read it. So as I tell people, if there's with some people at the city, I'm like, just don't send emails. It's almost better. With y'all, it's probably okay because we're doing a really nice thing. But understand anything that you send in those emails, the city keeps it. And if somebody comes in and says, I want every email that the Art Commission sent, they're going to print it out and hand it to them and they can go read it and just see what it is. So I always say, be happy if it's published on the front page of the newspaper, because we don't even question it. We just give it. Unless you sent something to me as a legal question, which would be unlikely. I've never seen one come from y'all, but even if that was it, I tell people just cease. What's that? What'd you send me? Remind me. Maybe not. Oh, that was a great question, as a matter of fact. Yeah, you always sent me questions. So the good thing with that is we had a specific question that did take some legal interpretation, but sometimes people say if they just put the attorney's name on the email, it'll be attorney-client. Nah, you got to be looking for some opinion out of me. Like I said, if you ask me for lunch, that one's going. They're going to get that one. But if you ask me about a specific interpretation of the code, then that's going to be privileged. The ethics ordinance. All right. Ethics ordinance, it's out there. You can get it. And if you want a copy, we can get it to you. The clerk can get you a copy. I don't think we put it in the package. Biggest thing about the ethics ordinance is conflicts of interest. That's where everybody's going to get in trouble with the ethics ordinance. And the big conflict of interest would be monetary. If the artist who was asking to get compensated for a mural was, spouse, child, somebody like that, that's going to be too close. And all you do though is doesn't mean you can't roll it, doesn't mean it can't come before us. You would just say, this is one I'm going to step out of the room while y'all consider this. But on that one, you look for a direct interest, which is money or benefit coming to someone who is sort of really very close to you. An indirect benefit. This one gets interesting because a lot of people have come to me. Actually, I've gotten more questions because people have come in and said, I think this might be a conflict. Do you think it's a conflict? But if you were putting a mural on your building and I wanted that, it would be a direct benefit. If it was a mural that went in the neighborhood, or if it was a mural that went in the shopping center your business was in, is that going to be a conflict? The example I have coming again out of the zoning is I had someone who the property behind their house was building a fence. And they actually thought it was a good fence. And they're like, that fence is going to be a benefit to me, but do I have to recuse myself? And the thing is, that fence benefited everybody in the neighborhood. That was going to be a benefit to the neighborhood. So that wasn't tight enough to be a direct benefit. And it was indirect enough that they called me and asked me about it, but they wouldn't rule on it or be involved in it. So when you get to the direct versus indirect, if you ever had a question, you can get with me, and Majira can give you all my number, and I've given you all my number, some of y'all before probably, but y'all are all welcome, my cell phone number, and you can call me. You just got to text me in advance and we can talk about anything. The biggest thing though, in the ethics ordinance, the number one thing that can get you in trouble is anything that would be quid pro quo. Even if it's a even if it's lunch. You know, if somebody's like, I really want to put this up and, you know, let me get you lunch, or you know what, I'm an artist, I can do this for you, or something, anything like that. Run as fast as you can. If it's 10 cents, stay away. That's the big things with the ethics ordinance.
Okay, so the way that that would work is like when we get the agenda from Majira and then we look at it and we're like, okay, I think there's going to be a conflict of interest. I'm going to email you and ask if that's something I can roll upon or not.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's exactly what you would do. If something, and I mean, it's rare. I can count on my, you know, both hands how many times I've had real issues like that come up in however many years I've done this. But if you ever saw something and you're like, you know, that you'll know, you'll be like, huh, that seems a little odd. Welcome to talk to me on it. But again, just remember, if it's a personal benefit, you would be able to say, I derived money from it. Nah, get out, just walk out of the room. If it's indirect, those might be the ones you want to call me on, if it's a fence in your backyard, or if it's a mural that's going up in, you know, a place right next door to you that you feel like you'll benefit from. It's closer. The biggest thing is run from any sort of quid pro quo. Almost don't even. Uh-huh. I was about to say, were you compensated for it? Will you receive substantial fame and fortune? Potentially, right? Right. So that's a great example, actually. Yeah, and I mean, it's uncompensated. It's just volunteer. You know, to the extent that someone could say, well, you know, Sarah Marks wants to, you know, further her career by painting the sidewalk in Doraville or this crosswalk in Doraville. You know, if that one gets interesting with this type of thing, it's sort of just a real, I would look at that and I'd say, you know, that's really just a public service almost. It's not going to be something that's a, you know, well, let's say those murals on 285 that you're going to see on Motors Industrial, that somebody could really get some notoriety, that could be a big deal. That could be a, hey, I'm gonna really end up, people know who I am doing this. Different situation than sort of let's paint the crosswalk in context. That's actually a really great example to talk about right there. That's ethics. And I mean, you know, what you'll find, I think, on ethics is generally you will, you'll know to call me if you read the agenda and you're like, that feels a little weird. You know, if you're like, that's strange, I'll probably give them a call. Let's see, what else was I going to talk about? Talked about open records, talked about that. An interesting one I always talk about in these is there's a case out there where someone who was on, I mean, usually these come out of the mayor council, or usually it's the mayor council that really are going to run into trouble. Somebody had a Facebook page, but on their Facebook page, they talked all about city stuff. And they were just, you know, my opinions about city stuff and this, that, and the other thing. And somebody came in and like, I want everything to do with that Facebook page. And they're like, no, that's my personal Facebook page. And literally it went to court. And this wasn't in Georgia, but it was an interesting case. It went to court and they're like, no, you made that a city document by making it all be based on city information and by putting out there all your opinions on the city. And it all comes from the fact that the mayor and council have imbued you with a piece of their authority to make these decisions and be the policy makers in the city regarding art issues. So interesting. I haven't done this with the art commission. I'll reflect on this and I'll do better next time. But that's sort of the big things I wanted to talk about. Robert's rules. Talk about Robert's rules for a second. I had a question years ago. Somebody came to me and they're like, well, and again, yes, it was the mayor and council, and somebody came in and not here even. And they're like, you know, if we don't follow Robert's rules, you know, exactly, will we get in trouble? Will somebody be able to come and throw over what we decide to do? And, you know, the real book on Robert's rules is this thick, and I'll never I have no desire to become a full-fledged expert on that. But what I've always said is Robert's Rules is just a methodology of it being clear what you did and what you decided. So it's a way to walk through issues where you sort of take it very deliberately. Define the issue. What are we talking about? Let's define our potential solution via motions. Let's see which motions are getting legs and walk through the process to make sure that when you do your final action, that Majira or the city clerk are like, I know exactly what they just did. I had one that was, again, another super complicated, and a million lawyers were in there over a zoning case where they were all arguing about this piece of property. They wanted to put a stadium on it, I think like a soccer stadium. And they went through the entire process and made the motion and they passed it. And at the end of the day, they came back and they're like, it's not clear. It's ambiguous as to one issue of the issue. And those attorneys were all over it. They're like, nope, you can't, you didn't address this issue. And we had to actually bring the issue back to the next meeting for clarification. That's why you approve the minutes. Because the minutes, you read them and you're like, she got it. That's exactly what we meant. We're good. And we agree. But on that one, it really became complicated. We had to get the clerk to determine that there was an ambiguity of the minutes of what happened. Then we had to pull it back into the next meeting as an agenda item to clarify. And it was really painful because I had to go back through the exact same painful issue and relitigate it to define that clarity. Because, it was one where the council was split. And, some of them were like, yeah, no, y'all did what I wanted. So, I think that's sort of it, but I know I covered it real high level and real fast. Ask me questions.
I do have a couple of questions at least. So one thing that we were wondering about is, as a commission imbued with the power to do things from et cetera, are we, so like how much, I'm trying to think of the right word, like self-determination do we have in terms of, for example, setting up like an art commission Facebook account or something like that? And because that's where we've run into issues where like we want to promote things that we're doing, and it's kind of difficult for us to do that through existing channels in a consistent way. And so that's like one half of the question. The other half of the question that I feel like is related is there's been like certain events that we want to hold, like small events or little programs that we want to do that we don't necessarily have any funding for. And there's, no process in particular for us to get those kind of things approved. And they're just sort of things like having a table somewhere to promote what the art commission does to get people involved or something like that. And so what degree do we have the ability to do that?
So the council loves the art commission. As I think you all well know, this has been a great success and we've got art in Doraville. It's changed the look in a lot of places in Doraville, really, really. But what I'd send back to relate it back to our conversation, and I was breezing through this and I didn't feel like I was doing this the best I've ever done. In section 29.3 of the art ordinance, which is on page 63 of the packet, the role of the City of Doraville Art Commission. So that tells you sort of all the things you have authority to do. And when I look at it, let's see. There was one I thought, yeah, here we go. Number 6. Review and recommend public art proposals consistent with definitions, criteria, themes adopted by the mayor and council. I would probably interpret into that the ability to come in and say, you know what? It would be nice for the art commission to have a table at some event. Is that what you were thinking? Something like that? Or to have a,
Well, okay. So for example, one thing that we did was we had a table, and then we were doing also just a little thing where we could, I got some donated art supplies and we were handing out little packages to people.
Hmm.
as like a little thing, and then they could make art, and then we would like share it on the Instagram kind of thing.
That's
Um,
super cool.
So that sort of thing. But these like you know, like community interaction and like trying to promote the arts in like a really simple, basic way. But
Mm-hmm.
ran into difficulties in trying to promote it through city channels.
Okay.
yeah, I guess like so we would be communicating on behalf of ourselves, but it's on behalf of the city too.
Here's what I would say on that, and that's really, I think it's a good idea. Here's how it would work. When I stop and I'm like, all right, I'm almost put an administrative hat on this, almost hitting the attorney hat. This is like the administrator hat, because y'all are a board. And you know, you have things, and one of them is to recommend projects, et cetera, and sort of weigh in on art in general. I was looking for something that I liked that was really just straight on it, but you know, I infer that into it. Staff can do a lot because, you know, but it's a resource issue that would come from the authority of the city manager. So if y'all came in and said, you know, we're the art commission and we'd like you to, you know, dedicate a full-time staff person to do this, that, and the other thing, of course, that's, yeah. But if you were saying, you know, we got an idea that to come in and what you just said, have a table where we have art and we'll staff it and we're going to have it done on Instagram. And, you know, my thought on that would be, that's a great idea. Take a victory lap. What I would do is ask my staff to see, can you get this on the city council agenda? And we could come in and just tell them what we wanted to do. And if you did that, the city council, I guarantee, would be like, oh, what a great idea. I love you guys. Move to approve and, you know, and let me give you enough to make that happen. So that would be the real process, I think, if there were any expenditure of staff time. Being the commission, there is a certain amount of staff time you're entitled to, I think, to, you know, prepare agendas and sort of carry out what y'all are planning to do. To go and sort of have a little more of an initiative like that, I'd probably put that in front of the mayor and council because they'll love it, would be my thought.
Yeah.
And I see that totally within y'all's purview. Not only that,
yeah, I feel like that's a good answer to that question.
okay.
So what's the process to put it in front of the merit agenda?
Staff,
Staff?
talk to your staff.
Okay.
And yep, Majira, and talk to Majira, and Majira can talk to me on it. And or Majira and Crystal could get that set up. But if it were something that were a really great, that to me is a neat little idea. And you just wanted authority, that could go in front of the mayor and council short. You know, you don't want to take a half an hour, but a short, boom, here's what we'd like to do. We'd like your approval to do this and to have some staff time, to use a little staff time to help us coordinate this. The city manager, it would go through the city manager and the city manager's like, yep, I like it. Let's do it. Put it on the agenda. Somebody come. I think that's actually would start a communication and a dialogue that I think the mayor and council would welcome. As a matter of fact, I'm almost sure they would.
Good. Yeah. So yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense, especially now that we have some budget allocated and we're going to start like formalizing how we want to use that. Then I think that makes a lot of sense. And then we can have a dialogue with the make everything certain. I just feel like we've been a little bit like
Hesitant?
we've been a little hesitant to do certain things just because we're not sure like what resources we could actually get or if, you know, we even are allowed to do that. Like I said, like if we have an Instagram, we're sort of communicating as the city to a degree. So I just want to make sure that's okay. But as if we get permission to do that, then I guess it's okay.
If it's coordinated through staff.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, right now, if somebody came in and said, and again, the city manager has to weigh in on all this, but I think there would likely be support that just the communication staff had a page that said the art commission had y'all's picture on it. And if there were some, you know, again, not taking much resources, but something that you felt would really benefit, I think probably you would find that that was received pretty well. If it were just on a staff level, there would be, you know, certainly creating the page and sort of putting your mission statement on there. If it were, we want to do an event or sort of go a little beyond just your charge here, I think you would have every right to pull that up in front of the mayor and council and say
Mm.
this was something we thought would enhance art in the community, and they'd be like, y'all are doing your job.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Yep. What else?
Let me just ask this while you're here. In case there was like a project that we really, really wanted to do, but we didn't have the budget for it, we would be able to talk to Majira about it and then have it into the mayor and council
Potentially. And the
potentially.
only thing I would say on that is you're gonna have some gatekeepers.
Okay,
Because the city manager, let's put a couple of things, because this is good. Actually, you know, when I look at the art commission, I look at folks who probably might be my planning commissioners down the road. And, you know, when you've seen this, maybe a council person down the road. So, you know, the thing that you would consider there would be, what is the budget? So if there's budget for it, and the city manager would say, yeah, we got some budget for that. Or if it's something that requires a new budget, then it's a little heavier lift if the mayor and council have to put a budget in there. You know, there's a lot of ways you could interact with the council in the budget process. You know, if y'all had, I mean, I think you have planning. One of your things is to make recommendations as to planning. If y'all had 3 or 4 things and we're like, you think we might get this in the budget process to come and do a couple of things, you could probably get in that conversation.
Mm.
And, you know, if everybody thought, wow, they do a great job and they really will push it forward, it could happen. I mean, I'm convinced Missouri might be about to throw something at me, but I can see all of that happening, and just knowing how much the city loves the public art and loves the art community that's here and wants to support it and have it thrive. I think all that would be met very, very receptively.
Yeah.
Mhm. Ask me more questions. Yeah, and I know a lot of that sort of up here, but I wanted to be able to say it because it's fundamental to what you're doing. You're exercising governmental authority, and you know there are different ways you approach that decision making. And the biggest one is, you know, is it just this? Is this just we're throwing our opinions out there about things, or you know, are we sort of taking the concrete? People are going to put something on the side of a building, and one day you might have somebody come in and be like, hey, here's my application for something that doesn't need to go on the side of a building, and got to be ready. Make sense?
Yeah,
All
great.
right.
Thank you.
I'm really happy to come and see y'all.
Yeah.
And I can just,
And
you
we
know,
have
it's-
your contact
City
information.
email, or is it a separate email address?
I have a separate email address. Would you like it?
Yes.
I'm going to give you all my email address and cell phone number. I'll even say it on camera. And if somebody wants to call me, I don't answer unless you text me first.
That's fair.
It's CG McClendon, McLendon, JR. So CG McClendon Jr. at Gmail. And my cell phone, 404-784-7904. But you really do sort of have to text me usually. But I'm happy to talk. Yeah, that was actually a super, that one is probably a war story question there. I'll be like, you know, here's an interesting question I had. So what else we got?
about it.
No, we can't. I can't really, but it was a great question. All right. Everybody happy? All right. Well, it's good to talk to y'all. And I know we're doing, I mean, I saw the murals coming through on 285 and all that. And I'm just like, so cool. We're really, when we all talked at the beginning about what we wanted to achieve, it's fun to watch it actually start to happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Cecil.
You good?
Take care. Okay. So it looks like we're on a new business.
New business?
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so new business, Art Commission evaluation crosswalks at the intersection of Chestnut Drive and McClave Drive. we have right here.
Hi. So we have a submission of an application for a crosswalk at Chestnut and Maclay Drive. The process of this was a little different to the public application. We use an application for a plot because was on the street that belonged to the city. So this is different than what we has been doing before, where the art is part of the private property. So that's why we use the plot procedures in combination with the public art application. So as you see, the application was received in August 19 and was presented by Holly Holcomb in partnership with the Doraville Art Center, the Neighborhood Association, NANA. Today, we are going to do the presentation and you can evaluate the project. But basically, they expecting to do the project with the participation and engagement of the whole community. They present letters of recommendation, not only of the partners mentioned, DART and NANA, but also of the community members, including the property owners of the houses that are around this intersection. The art has been inspired by the successful pedestrian mural that was installed a couple years ago in front of the MARTA. It's called the Scramble. So they based on that mural, they get the inspiration. They also use the resources that show that having a crosswalk with art really help safety, improve visibility, and have many benefits for the community. The designs will reflect not only the time period of this neighborhood, but also will bring colors and graphics that provide vitality and show how the diversity of Doraville community. The medium that they are going to use is the same medium that they use in the Scramble, that is a water-based acrylic traffic paint. The research say that this kind of painting have a durability of 6 to 6 months. We see that the Scramble already has like 2 years and it's starting to run off. So this is one of the considerations that painting this medium is the best one. The design, as I mentioned before, is created by the whole communities of artists of Doraville in collaboration with NANA. So it was a group design. They also present a schedule, and I would like that you input in this information too, your feedback. When they say that the art will take place in a weekend, but will take like 4 hours. And they establish that they are going to use stencils, so that will make it faster the process, different than was doing during the Scrabble. That was kind of like a
Freehand,
painting there, and it was more
improvised.
no, not improvised, but it was to trace it. I think took longer than using
A guide.
a stencil. Mhm. So they established that the time for that, they will have to clean for 2 hours from 7 to 9. They say the stencil will be, the use of the stencils and layout will be half an hour from 9 to 9:30. Then the application will take like 1 hour and a half. And then they say that the drying will be like 45 minutes. And then the protective sealing will be 50 minutes. So that's some of the considerations that I honestly don't know if that is the time is, I remember with the previous one, the ceiling of the street was done in a different time. So this part is this, maybe we needed to ask for clarification, so more resources about, or is any of you have the knowledge, that will be great feedback. There are materials that can be more resistant. Maybe that also is something that we couldn't consider. However, this is more resistant, also probably will be more expensive, and this is a very low budget project with a big impact. So
Although I will point out there's going to be less traffic over that than there is at the Scramble.
that's also true because the new P3 is a very heavy street. That's very good consideration. Okay. They also present that they are going to request the police assistance for the closing of the street, and they provide a tentative redirection of the traffic for that time. So you can see in your material the intersection of Chestnut and McClave Drive, and it will be like traditional crossing. It's not like a scramble because there is no traffic sign there, signal there. So also they present a croquis of the detour of the traffic. You can see here the renderings of the image, and that the design, as I mentioned, is very live. You have a lot of colors. I think it will look great in that location. And what is the most important is a gathering of the whole community that feel very proud to engage in this project. So they also analyze, and the teams offer the criteria that the plan of public art require of diversity, community, vitality, transformation. They present a very good case about that. And the maintenance, they say that the mural will be inspected annually to see the conditions. Also will be recording or refresh every 2 years for a period of 10 years, which in the previous murals, we has not been kind of established. This maintenance has been kind of like just to say, but we are starting to learn more about this process. So the more we learn, the more we wanted to establish a better decision requirements for the applicants. The funds, they also say that the project will cost $500. And this is based on the experience of DART with the previous installation. They will cover the cost, DART will cover the cost of the project using community resources and fundraising. They also may ask for the fundings that the public art is available, have available from previous, the income of the film. They are going to request 250 for this to support the materials. Okay. So that's the application, and you have in your packet the evaluation. So as you can say we do with any other public art, is you can establish the evaluation.
I do want to be clear about my involvement with this project. I did mocked up the
rendering.
the rendering. I am assisting with the stencils, and I am assisting with the procurement of the traffic paint. So if anybody feels like I need to recuse my vote, you can certainly tell me that, or I can vote with you guys.
I think that maybe you recuse, and anyway, we have a full kit. So then after hearing what they were saying,
Good place.
We'll sit over there.
after going to our training of best practice, I think that will be more transparent. Thank you.
Okay. I did have a question. Was there any particular meaning in mind when it came to the selection of the patterns?
Yeah, good, thank you. You can introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Mary French, Executive Director for DART. So the pattern design is mid-century modern breezeway blocks.
Oh,
And we
okay.
went, since it is a mid-century modern neighborhood, went with that, but then punched up mid-century colors.
Right.
Instead of the muted tones, we went for the vibrant versions of all of those.
Okay.
It's kind of similar to the colors that we also have on Doraville's logo.
It's Doraville logo, it's DART logo, it's a lot of primary, tertiary, because those do the best with the traffic paint also.
Yes.
Brighter is better.
And so just to be clear, the painting of the actual thing, the installation of the artwork is going to be done by the community. Okay.
The application, they say that it will be collaboration between DART and the NANA, and they estimate that 20 participate. So.
Will Dart be the one that maintains it?
DART, along with the Northwoods Area Neighborhood Association, collect jointly will maintain that since they're in the neighborhood. Yes, I live there, but so they'll keep an eye on it, but DART will maintain the supplies that are needed for the paint. And the parent network and their kids will also be participants in the painting. So we'll have littles, which are so much fun to watch paint the ground.
Everybody finished up?
Yes.
Okay. I think we're ready. The, mm-hmm. I'll start with you, Chris.
Yeah, I'm voted to approve. Do we need to go through line by line on everything?
Are we going through line by line or just the total?
Yeah, I voted to approve and I had the 47 out of 50 scoring on the criteria.
I also approve with 48 out of 50.
And I approve with a 48 out of 50. And I noted to also approve the requested 250 micro grant.
I also approved this with a 47 out of 50, as well as the $250.
Yeah, I agree on the 250. That was part of the full approval.
Yeah.
Yes, I approve the funds.
The only recommendation I had was to just review the timeline for the application of the sealant, because that seemed like it was in question. Oh, okay. Right. Okay. I mean, that
Okay,
makes sense.
because I had also just looked it up and it looks like most sealants need at least 24 hours, especially if it's going to be like, there's going to be weight going across it. So I don't know if I'm well informed or not on the materials you guys are using.
So the specific sealant that was used for the scrambles and that we will use again, it has a 4-hour
Okay.
drive time. So if we finish up by 12 and finish sealing, we'll have more than enough. We'll have over 6 hours to let it
Okay.
not have traffic.
So on the scramble, with the traffic paint that we used has 20-minute setup time. And basically as it's set up, we sealed it. So as people were finishing one section of the scramble, somebody was coming behind them with the sealant.
Okay. Seems reasonable.
So in total, it would have like 7 hours to dry up.
Before.
Post, yeah, okay.
Approve. That's it?
I think we talked about what was the most impending and that's it.
Yep. Move on. I can't hear. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the budget allocation.
Oh, yes. So yeah, moving on to the next item of new business. Oh, yes, approve without recommend. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay. Um, okay. Next item, budget allocation proposal. I put this together just so y'all have a starting point since this is my last meeting. But put a little thought into how the funds that we're getting from the filming fees might be put to use in a medium and long term kind of way. Yeah. Oh, can I do it here? Oh, I didn't know that. What do I do? Oh, you moved for me. Okay. I was like, okay. Yeah, we can do the next slide, please. Okay. Okay. So what I want to do is create a straightforward budget plan that supports the master plan that we have. I wanted to establish and grow a reserve that goes year by year so that we can have future projects based out of a larger fund that will grow over time. Yep, and then we'll be able to invest directly in bottom-up community-driven arts. I wanted to reserve a portion of the funds for that, and specifically so that we can have artists and community members approach us, and we'll have something set aside for them, and then we could also promote. And then we also to allocate a portion of the budget to projects initiated by the Art Commission, so that we have some leeway there. So essentially divided everything into fifths, and giving the largest portion, the 2/5, to the back into the community as microgrants. And those would be in the form of microgrants for artists trying to do projects, and also businesses that want to offset the cost of putting public art on their property. This is just another breakdown, and you can see the year-to-year reserve would be 20% of the budget every year would be held and put into that reserve for future use. 20% community engagement, and that would be things like, for example, when we want to set up a public art event or a little table where we're handing out kits or something like that, or to support like a workshop or something like that, we can use that. And that would be more things that the Art Council itself is probably running. 20% for rotating temporary projects. Okay. Sorry. So that would be like what you were talking about with, I was thinking about the like movable sculpture that you were talking about and things like that, where we have like more short-term art, public art installations that we want to do that maybe move around or something.
Okay.
We would have something for that, or possibly one thing we haven't dipped our feet in yet is like artistic displays, where maybe we can have like a call for art and have a little exhibition someplace. Just random ideas.
Really
More temporary
inflation.
things, yeah. Obviously you'd have to have some debate about whether or not these are community engagement or whatever, but you know, we don't need to be that specific yet. And then again, the 40% for in micro grants. We can go ahead and do the next slide. So this is the year-to-year reserve that I was talking about. This allows us to ensure we have some sustainability going forward too, because there will always be some percentage of the budget left for the next year. We could potentially set like a growth target and say, you know, we want to be able to fund X, Y, and Z, and so we're going to grow our reserve budget to a certain amount. And I have an example of that where if we have a $10,000 budget, we can use 8,000 on current projects that year, and you reserve 2,000. And then even if we don't get any more revenue growth, in 5 years would have $10,000 to spend on a larger project, right? So 5 times 2,000. And we can move to the next slide, please. Thank you. So community engagement would be community collaborative public art projects. You know, this could really be all sorts of things, but this is often like what people get excited about when they talk about public art. It's like doing something with, you know, a bunch of school kids making a mural or something like that. Or having like a little art fair or something like that. Could be all sorts of things, but I would set aside a certain percentage for that sort of project. And then we had, on the next slide, we have rotating and temporary projects again, which I mentioned. I think I took the picture at the bottom is just like a close up of some of like the lantern parade kind of thing. That'd be like another idea. Yeah. Okay, so the next slide is microgrants. So of course, like the microgrants, we'd have to make sure that all these things that we'd be supporting with this money would be, you know, fit the community diversity, vitality, and, you know, be acceptable under the master plan. You know, whether it's a small business who wants to offset the cost of putting a mural in, or a local artist who wants to do an exhibition or something.
Would this, like what we just did with Nana, be an example of that?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So that's exactly what I had in mind, was something where the community comes to us and they say, you we want to do this project. We need $200 to do it. And then we'd have something set aside for them to do that. And in my mind, I really would love the majority of all public arts projects to be community driven like that. And just really come from the bottom up. I think that's best case scenario. It doesn't always happen that way, but. And then on the next slide, I have a couple notes about accountability and visibility. So we would publish a community impact report each year of how the funds were used and the number of artists supported and community events created. We could host an annual showcase or unveiling to keep residents aware of the tangible benefits of the public arts budget and how we're allocating it. And that is it. That's my whole presentation. Thank you. So yeah, I just hope that, obviously we don't have to make any decision about that right now, and it would need to be refined a little bit, but y'all could take that going forward and maybe adopt it in part or whole. Mm-hmm.
So when you're saying something about how, like for bigger projects, 20% set aside, is there a time frame that
Yeah, so
you thought of, like a minimum of 5 years or minimum of?
I mean, the basic idea of that is just that there will always be that 20% for the next year. So like even if like I don't know, there's no more films being made somehow, there will still be 20% the next year to do for something, right? But
It would be like a savings account.
it's sort of, yeah, it's a little bit of a backup plan, it's a buffer. But then, potentially you could also say, let's not touch any of that money for 5 years. And then to get to a certain point where you want to do some larger project or fund a bigger project. It's just nice, you'd probably have a specific idea in mind, but yeah. So.
The strike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, my hope with that like 20% is that it creates a little bit of stability going forward, even though the funding goes up and down. Because film always goes in like crazy seasons, and sometimes it's booming and sometimes it's not. Even in Hollywood, it's like that. So. Any other questions?
Nothing for me.
Okay. Do we have any other new business?
I,
Yeah.
Right.
You were gonna say something?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I have something to say. Would this be something that we would add or change to the master plan?
Yeah, there's no budget in the master plan at all.
So this amount of this allocation is in a resolution, so that money is there, it's separated, is available. The procedure is part of the thing that we needed to establish as a policy, internal policy, how will be the dispersed. And that's why with this proposal, that can help to create that kind of policy. The other question you were saying is,
Would this be something that we'd add or change to the master plan?
well, one of in the resolution established that the definition is of how we use this fund is based on the plan. And the plan is very strict about that public arts. So like workshops, performance, that was not included there. So it will be interesting if you review that and is any recommendation or changes. So if we can implement it in the next session, that will be good.
Yeah, I
We
think.
can include in the agenda to discuss.
Yeah, if we can update the master plan.
Yeah, I think if y'all do that and you go, through each section and say like, here's the type of projects I envision seeing being funded by this, and then take that back to the council and say, here's our plan and how we want to use it, they would probably say, okay, because the money's already allocated.
Mhm.
And you'd probably be able to get, if it's not already supported by the master plan, I'm sure you can get it to be.
Yeah, it's just like we have to make all the information is accurate,
Yeah.
and it is needed modification. And I think this plan already have almost 4 years, and we has been improving many things about public art. We have many changes, so I think it's a perfect time to revisit, and incorporate any change to make it more applicable. And now we have some money. So.
When was the date for us submitting future projects? You said it was September.
Future projects for art?
Huh.
Oh, no. I say like
I
just,
think it's the end of the fiscal year,
Oh, okay.
September
Got it.
yeah,
30th.
Okay.
to keep in mind that because what you were asking about how to use this funding, and legal was say that maybe you wanted to make a request. So just to let you know that it's a setup. It can be probably for next year because it's almost established.
I would think we need to talk about looking at the master plan and getting it approved by the council before we start to plan the budget, because it wouldn't make sense to plan it if the projects aren't approved, right?
That makes sense.
But also they can be submitted at the same time. You can submit it, these are the changes that we wanted to incorporate.
Yeah,
in the
like we
master
can,
plan.
we can still like look at doing
Yeah,
things
like-
like some utility box paintings or things like that, right?
Yeah. And then
And just make sure we don't use up all the budget, like
Right.
try to loosely abide by
we talked
what
about a
Adams put
parade.
in place until we can get it formally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about an
Approved.
art parade, and we also talked about the parking lot installations.
Yeah.
So what I was mentioning about the fiscal year is almost like for 25, 26, this is the amount that we have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like when we have a new income, we can add it and we can make it available. But that's what we have like a starting point for this budget.
If we're going to review the master plan, we had discussed last time about the community survey that you mentioned.
Oh, we had that.
Yeah.
Did
Of
you send
how
that to
art-
us? I can't remember now.
I will send that because we didn't.
Of how art, like how the community wanted art to be in our.
Yeah, there was a previous survey Where, yeah, basically they surveyed the community on those issues.
Yeah, we were going to include it in the minutes.
This was already a very heavy meeting.
Yeah.
So if we could have that on hand for next meeting to review that and make sure it aligns with our master plan.
Perfect.
Guess we're all set. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.
Dang it. It's your last one.
Come on, you could have done more.
Someone really beat the
I know.
dunk out of that.
Somebody's mad.
We're passionate.
Passionate.
I don't know what this is going, what's going on with this right here.
Yeah, that was a missed strike.